History is the silence of civilizations long lost and humanity's shared odyssey. We feel the symphony of life in the pyramids that rise from the desert, the intricate aqueducts stitching together the vast Roman Empire, and the Great Wall that winds across the spine of imperial China. These icons embody the technological leaps and the innovative spirit of their eras. These civilizations did not come about by chance, but each society was forged brick by brick, dream by dream, scar by scar, till the stone and soul became one. Nemesis always arrives, sometimes in the sudden disruption of war, disease, or force majeure, and other times the silent, quiet atrophy of complacence that hollows out a nation from within. The civilizations have faded, but their innovations endure. Hence, we should confront one cardinal question. Is innovation the linchpin of a durable legacy? Intuitively, we can all assert and agree that innovation is the engine to our prosperity and an existential necessity. We can also agree that almost all nations are endowed with some form of natural capital or innovative capital or intellectual capital or some form of human capital to leverage and secure its prosperity. If we agree to that premise, then why do some nations prosper while others languish in poverty? The quest for this holy grail will be long, arduous, and convoluted. But history unveils three anti-patterns that have dislodged, disrupted, and precipitated the collapse of even the most animated and driven of civilizations. The first anti-pattern is the convergence trap, which is the mindless pursuit of hot innovations in the vain hope that these innovations will make you a winner. Buying the tools that winners use won't make you a winner. But becoming the winner, but becoming them, replicating their resolve, rigor, and routine may set you on a path to becoming one. We saw this anti-pattern manifest itself quite forcefully in the 1980s. Returning from a fact-finding mission from Japan, a group of American executives were terrified, not from futuristic machines or alien technology, but the philosophy of a single man, Edwards Deming. Now here's the twist. Deming was American. For years, he had tried to teach the American executives his concepts of total quality management, but he was ignored, sidelined, and dismissed. In Japan, however, he found a nation with a monstrous appetite, an unquenchable thirst for his concepts. The Japanese imbibed, internalized, and industrialized his concepts. And in doing so, they triggered a manufacturing revolution that turned a war-torn island into a global powerhouse within a single generation. Today, we are reading the same headlines, just with different actors, motives, and stages. We ask ourselves, are we playing this game or just watching others win? Escaping the convergence trap entails not just a mere acquisition of the artifacts of innovation or knowledge, but a concerted, consistent, and diligent application of those artifacts over and over and over again, as the Japanese did for decades. The second anti-pattern is the congruence trap, which is our failure to leverage innovations because our archaic societal frameworks don't integrate with or are incompatible with our inventions. Innovation without adoption is just a hobby. For innovation to have a profound impact, it must diffuse from the fringes of society into the daily lives of its people. The calculation of diffusion dictates that even the most groundbreaking of innovations requires mundane, albeit scalable, utilitarian foundations such as infrastructure, logistics, laws, standards, and protocols to diffuse. New York City was a quiet, dreamy little town and a regional port in the 1820s. Its evolution to a commercial epicenter is a case in point. Its transformation can be attributed to a single infrastructure project, the construction of the Erie Canal. Before the canal existed, shipping goods within the United States was slower and more expensive than across the Atlantic to Europe. The canal project sought to change that, but faced staggering odds and endless ridicule. The young nation had simply not developed the engineering prowess to realize a project of such magnitude, and it had not developed the skills that matched its towering ambitions. Logically, nothing about digging a ditch is new or difficult. Civilizations have done that for years and ages in the past. However, the relentless resolve to carve a canal through 360 miles of rugged wilderness across the state, now that's revolutionary. When the canal opened, the shipping costs plummeted by 90%, and overnight, the American economy transformed. The fledgling nation prevailed not because it had better shawls, but because of its tenacity to transform a ridicule to reality. A century later, the same young nation would put a man on the moon. The Apollo moon landing is not the triumph of a single nation. It is a milestone for the entire humanity because it pushed the frontiers of the possible. It elevated the human spirit. It pushed the envelope and the boundaries and redefined the art of the possible. Escaping the convergence trap requires us to stop over-indexing on the innovations and shift our passion and start obsessing over our foundations, our collective will, and more importantly, our ability to adapt and adopt innovations at scale. The third anti-pattern is the culture trap. This happens when nations cling on to assets from a bygone era and are oblivious to the fact that these assets are the structural liabilities that prohibit them from their desired future. Such nations treat innovations as niche endeavors rather than as integral themes. In contrast, a progressive nation envisions its future and engineers its foundation to make that desired future an eventuality. Japan, a famously resource-poor nation, looked beyond the post-war rubble and saw its future in Hinshitsu Daiichi, meaning quality first, a new gestalt. This took the form of quality circles on the factory floor, not isolated quality control departments. Kaizen, meaning continuous improvement, became the lingua franca across the board, from the line worker to the CEO. When innovation is a department, it's a silo, a bottleneck. But when it's a culture, it's an immune system that automatically identifies and eliminates any inefficiency. When you scale such a culture across the entire nation, it gets embedded in its DNA and becomes part of the national identity. This ethos transformed the Made in Japan brand from one of cheap imitation to a hallmark of excellence. Liberation from the cultural trap entails foresight to transform a scarcity of resources into a surplus of ingenuity. In the strategic terrain of techno-nationalism, there will be winners and there will be losers. But the pivotal question is whether a nation has the collective fortitude to commit to a North Star and march towards it for decades. When evaluating eventualities, our scales oscillate between the binary poles of a utopian dawn and a dystopian dusk. Utopia is the static, perfect future that does not exist. Dystopia is a certain demise and decline that we all dread. The real horizon, however, is protopia. It is the slow, gradual, incremental evolution that turns marginal gains into tidal waves of unprecedented progress. It turns subtle changes and gains into a self-reinforcing flywheel that cannot be stopped but builds on its energy over and over and over again, transforming individuals, societies, and even civilizations. The grand scheme of things, a nation-state must get 5 elements right. Before embarking on this journey, it must consolidate its 5 estates: the legislative, the executive, the judiciary, the people, and the press, into a holistic living organism, not as fragmented web of fiefdoms. In this context, statecraft entails 3 things. First, it's about compiling policies that prime innovations to permeate. Second, it's about inspiring the possibilities through shared narratives. And third, it's about stewarding the shared vision into equitable progress. However, the remit of such a transformation does not rest entirely with the state. It's also the domain of its citizenry, us, the people. Because ultimately it's us, the people, who have to hold the pen and write our future. Now that begs a question. What can you do today to pull the future to the present? I'm going to leave you with 3 instruments of change. The first instrument is at the individual level and impacts the dystopian roof shot. Look around and audit your environment. Look out for illogical but accepted norms, the anti-patterns. Ask yourself, if I were to architect this from scratch, would I keep this? If the answer is negative, phase it out and create space for the future. The second change I advocate impacts the organizational level and the protopian earth shot. Organizations implode because its leaders fund the present and starve the future. Realize your agency in building solid, durable, and anti-fragile organizations. Employ the 70-20-10 rule, where you invest 70% of your efforts on your core activities, 20% on the adjacencies, and 10% on futuristic plays that have no immediate rewards or returns. The third change I'm advocating is at the societal level and impacts the utopian moonshot. Engage in the future back conversation discourse within your communities. Articulate the desired future that you envision and work backwards to the present. Identify the scaffolds you must build today to make that desired future an eventuality. History will be written regardless, with or without us, whether we take an active part or otherwise. If you decide to walk out here unchanged, nothing happens. But if even a fraction of us decides to take action, the arc bends. Future does not wait for anybody. Future does not seek permission, but future rewards action. Future follows action. Action follows decisions. And we are the decisions.